Well, ever found yourself saying things like, I'm not enough, I'm not yet ready, or maybe I'll fail even before you begin something? I tend to believe that we all have an internal narrator, and today we're going to dive deep into the scripts that we end up telling ourselves. So join me today for our segment. I'd like to call it the stories we tell ourselves. So many times we find ourselves in situations where there's these conversations that are running in your mind. Probably you're going through a transition, stepping into something new that you haven't been able to figure out before. There's that urge where you want to be in control, to know, how am I going to figure things out? And one thing that I have come to realize is that the one person that you end up having major conversations with tends to be with yourself. And so it really matters how you speak to yourself. It really matters how you see yourself, because the conversations that run in your mind tend to play a big role in how you build up your confidence, in how you show up in the world, in how you solve your problems, in how you actually just walk through life. And there's something that we call the internal locus of control, and another one is called an external locus of control. So you'd like to maybe wonder, Grace, what are all these big words that you're oozing out right now? So someone with an internal locus of control simply is someone who thinks that they can figure things out, or maybe let me just say they can let me get a proper way of expressing it, or let me look at an external locus of control and then we dive back to internal locus of control. Someone with an external locus of control will be thinking, this situation that is happening to me is because of A, B, C, and D. In short, they feel like life attacks them. But someone with an internal locus of control sees that as much as this is happening, I may not know how I will figure it out, but I believe in the abilities that I have. I believe that I will be able to make the right decisions. And even though I may make mistakes, I still own the decisions and even the consequences of what happens in my life. So how does this show up in real life? I believe that we've all found ourselves in circumstances and issues, and you're like, say you lost a job. There are two people, let us look at several circumstances in life. So for example, someone loses a job. Someone with an internal locus of control will sit we love to say that you call yourself for a meeting. And so what are the thinking patterns that will be going on between these two people who are in the same situation in life? Say they have experienced a loss, so let's use an example of losing a job. So the person with an internal locus of control will end up feeling like, probably I was procrastinating, I should work on myself better. Probably I was not a good team player, so in the next job that I find myself in, I learn how to communicate. By doing this, they end up taking a journey of self-development, self-growth, and they become a better person compared to the version of themselves they were before the issue occurred to them. Looking at someone else with an external locus of control with the same situation, they'll be like, the boss hated me, people always so and so had an issue with me at the job, probably Madam so and so, the HR always wanted to give my job to someone. So you see, this person sees everything was working against them. There's nowhere they feel like they have control to the situation. So how do these two things affect our lives? Number one, the person who has an internal locus of control, they build up their confidence, they build up their ability to believe in themselves, because there's something beautiful when you find yourself in a crisis in life and you do not know how to go about it. You sit with yourself in the issue, and when you find yourself, you've been able to crack it, there's the joy that it brings to you. There's the joy that you're able to even feel, let me say, proud of yourself. But someone who has no locus of control, but an external locus of control, it affects even your self-esteem. And you see, once these self-issues are affected in our lives, it now shows up in how we think about ourselves. So one thing I'd like us to learn is that your mindset really matters. Your thinking pattern, it really shows up even in the decisions that you make in your day-to-day life. You can never be productive externally when you are drowning internally. And most of the times when we see people who are successful in life, it doesn't just happen overnight. This is someone who has become proactive in building themselves in how do they think in seasons of failure, how do they think in seasons of transitions, when things are happening and you do not have a leeway where you can look at how did I figure things out before, so how am I going to move into the next step. Yeah. And I remember, like, in my situation, there's a time that I was having a transition in my career. That was back in school. And I had to make a decision by myself. I remember I was in campus and there was this situation where now you have to choose, is it called specializing? Where you have to specialize on your career path. And so I was in the commerce section, but now we had a few options, whether it was in finance, accounting, there was entrepreneurship, marketing, and human resource. And everyone was going through to the finance option. So there's a time I actually joined in, but midway the semester I figured out that I don't think I made this decision for myself. I don't feel like it aligns with whatever that I want to do even in my future. And so I had to halt halfway, despite the fact that time was much spent, resources were spent, but I had to be honest with myself. At some point I felt I was struggling because that was not my my strength. And I had to make the decision for myself, despite the fact that there were other key stakeholders that needed to be involved, but I realized that the sole decision belonged to me. And so it's a challenge to all of us. How many times do we make decisions either to please people, which makes you a people pleaser? How many times do we make decisions that do not align with your true values because you're just scared of what lies on the other side? Honestly speaking, I didn't know what would happen if I either stayed on course or now that I was changing. It's not that I really had a clear picture of what I was getting myself into, but I trusted in my intuition. And I'm so grateful because that gave me the confidence to know that I can trust in myself. I can trust in the decisions that I make. I can trust how I think. And that means that I'm not afraid to fail. That is something else that affects how we show up in life, and it affects our thinking pattern. Failure doesn't mean that it is the end of the world. Failure doesn't mean that it is the end of the road. So when we're talking about the narratives that we tell ourselves, the stories that we tell ourselves, when you have a setback in life, What do you tell yourself in that moment? Is that the time that you're throwing stones at yourself? Most of the time I normally say that the same way that you are extending kindness to others, extend the same level of kindness to yourself. If you wouldn't throw a stone to another person because of the setback that they have encountered, you'd actually go and support them, pat them on the back, and be there to show them that yes, you've fallen today, but you can rise tomorrow. That is the same narratives that we tell ourselves. When you find yourself that you have failed in a certain area of your life, ensure that you're kind to yourself. Remind yourself of the battles that you have won before, and remind yourself that if I was able to push through this setback before, even now I am able to do it. Because one thing that I have come to realize in life is that no one will ever pat you on the back more than you can do it yourself. And most of the times, even when you're winning, people will only be seeing the end result. That is when they'll be telling you congratulations, but in between the process, you're the one who had to go through the self-motivation. You're the one who has to build up consistency. You're the one who has to build up resilience. You're the one who knows where it actually pinches you most. So I tend to believe that how you speak to yourself matters a lot, and words are very powerful. I remember some time back, I had an issue with self-sabotage, because I'm not the kind of a person who is easily influenced by external forces or people. I'm not someone that you easily influence. If I haven't decided that I want to make a certain decision, I won't do it. If I decide that I'm doing this, then I am doing it wholeheartedly. But my biggest challenge was self-sabotage, because there are times I would feel like, and I remember that came about consciously when I realized a pattern in my life where my mentors or people who came close to me would always give me a comment: Grace, you have a big potential. Grace, you have a potential in this. Grace, you have... So one day I again called myself for a meeting, and I was like, what does it mean when everyone is telling me that I have great potential? I think that I'm doing just fine. I'm just comfortable. But what does this potential really look like? What is this that everyone else is seeing about me that I am blinded to? And I realized that I'd never taken time to actually, and you see, the thing is that I was actually building so many people, and anyone that came close to me would never go back the same way. But I was never putting or drawing the same energy back to myself. And so I believe that became a wake-up call to me. And I promised myself that I would never allow myself that later on in life I would look back and wish or regret that I wish I had done this. I wish I had showed up in this level. I wish I had tried out this thing. Because sometimes life is so unfair, you never have that chance again. And I'm so grateful, because when I decided to do, I tend to call it the shadow work, I began to unravel things about myself that I wasn't conscious about, or that I never really thought mattered. Because for the first time I was able to actually tell myself, like, Grace, you're gifted. Grace, you're good at this. Grace, you are capable of doing this and this and this. Something that I never ever thought was important to me, because I would be, actually I'm a multi-talented person, but I never thought it was important for me to be proactive in telling myself loudly that Grace, you are good at this, that Grace, you are showing up well in life. And sometimes I would really struggle to fight so many things, and even if I overcame and won, I really never sat down to actually even celebrate my wins until I came to learn that nobody will ever give me the flowers that I truly deserve if I don't do it myself. No one will ever understand the pain that probably I have gone through to build something more than I really know. No one would ever understand more than you ever do. And so it doesn't hurt an inch for you to go that extra mile and actually celebrate yourself. It doesn't hurt for you to go an extra mile and see the light that you actually carry into the world. Sometimes actually when you go through, I think they're what we call traumas, where you live a life where probably you're not given I don't want to call them accolades, but you really walk in life feeling unseen, feeling unheard, and so you get to a place where you learn to quiet yourself. And that was me, because I reached a place where I felt like it's okay to be quiet. It's okay, like my voice didn't matter. And even if I'm very opinionated, which I think it's still okay. It reached a place where I didn't feel like my opinions mattered anymore, such that I would be in a room where I felt like I need to be contributing to these conversations. It's boiling in me, but I'll just fold my arms and look around, be quiet, and leave. But was that who I really am? No. To the core, no. So as I have kept understanding and working on myself, I realized that my voice matters. My opinion is needed. Even if, actually not even if, it is needed. It is actually needed. And in one way or another, it will make an impact. That is now how I believe and how I speak to myself, because I believe that I'm here for a cause. So are you who is listening to me today. And the fact that I have been able to walk a journey for years now, transforming how I think. The biggest shadow work that I've had to do, it's on my mindset. And that is what I'm trying to share with us today, to bring this conversation on board. What is stopping you from becoming that person that you're meant to be? Between who you are now and the person that you are supposed to be in your future, between that space actually is what you're telling yourself, because you cannot reach, I like to say that as far as you can see, that is how much you will go. So how are you seeing yourself? Who do you see in yourself? Because I have come to actually see results in my life that have come about after I was able to cross the self-limiting beliefs and some imposter syndrome, where you feel like I am not the one who deserves to be here. Because there are times that I would find myself in spaces and I really tried to hide or make myself small, until someone actually had to call me out and tell me that, Grace, do you know the level you are in right now, you're beyond how you're talking to yourself. Because I was so comfortable, and I was like, no, I'm being humble. But what about the things that you tell yourself that you're being humble actually is just an imposter syndrome speaking out. So I had to learn how to balance between, of course, receiving accolades. That was also something that was quite difficult for me, receiving appreciation. I never felt like it really mattered from other people, but now I receive it very well. And I'm able to actually also appreciate myself, because even doing this, it's so much out of my comfort zone. so much out of my comfort zone, and I'm taking a step at a time. I'm taking a step at a time to learn, to grow, and just become better, because the battle is not against the world, what you're calling the external locus of control. The battle is about who was I yesterday, who am I today, and who am I aiming to become tomorrow. Yeah, so what we can learn from today's conversation is, what is that story that you're telling yourself? Do you believe that you deserve to begin a business and actually thrive? Do you believe that you can begin your studies and actually win? Do you believe that you are meant to become a star in the role that you're showing up in life? Because that is who you're meant to be. Do not sell yourself short, because you are worth more. You deserve the best in life, and within the very time that we have in this life, you deserve to have the best of it. The struggles may come, the setbacks may present themselves, but that is not all there is to life. Allow yourself to push more, allow yourself to grow, allow yourself to see beyond who you are right now, because the sky is not the limit, and there's more. I tend to believe, actually, one of my latest mantras right now is, there's more to life. Do not settle for where you are right now. Do not settle for all that you're seeing happening around you. Do not settle for what you think you know. Expose yourself to other people, expose yourself to new environments, expose yourself to new learning systems that will actually teach you and show you that there is more. Sometimes we settle and tell ourselves things because we are so comfortable in what we have around us, but once you expose yourself to new, it will okay, I'm laughing because I have remembered okay, this is me. I find myself laughing at my own stories that recur in my head. So I've remembered I recently found myself in a high profile environment, and it was so intimidating. It was so intimidating because there are so many entry points, so many, and the security was actually so intense. So from the main gate, walking, there are so many security checkpoints, I remember, and and the reason why I'm laughing is because I do not understand why I really felt like I shrank when I got into the whole space, such that on my way out at the exit, I found myself back at the entry gate because I was so scared even to ask for directions, and I still wanted to look like I'm well put together. So I got caught up with the police, and I was actually shaking. So he asked me, like, actually it was a lady. So she was like, "Why are you getting out of this place using this entry gate?" And I had to act up like, "Oh, was it an entry gate? I thought it was the exit." And so she told me, "Now that you're already here and it's miles away for you to exit, just use this gate." And when I stepped out, I was breathing like, "Oh, I'm glad I'm finally out." And we had to be there for like 3 days. But of course, the second day I made a friend, and it made me more comfortable. But what I'm trying to say is that I'm glad that I actually found myself in that environment, because it shifted actually how I felt and thought about myself. And by the end of those 3 days, it became normal for me. And I felt like I think I need to do this often. So, as I've said, expose yourself to more. Sometimes when you're thinking that you do not deserve to be in certain spaces, I've had to push myself to even learn how to speak with people who are superior. Not superior in the sense that they are greater than me, but let me say people that I get to learn from, because I get to understand so many things in how they show up. Because if you're learning how to be confident, align yourself with people that are also confident in how they're showing up in life. If you're learning to speak well of yourself, there are people who I listen to, and it's not just an affirmation that they're speaking to themselves, but it becomes part of how they show up in life, because they own life in itself. So that's the same challenge that I want to pose to us today. What is that narrative that you're telling yourself? Do not keep telling yourself that maybe you're coming from a certain background, that you do not deserve this, that this is how things have been done before, and so much more. You are the change that you want to see in your life, and it all begins by what you think, what you say, how you feel about yourself, because no one is ever going to take up the space that you ought to be taking in life. So until next time, I have been your host, Grace Muroki, on our podcast, Winning Today. See you on the next one. Bye-bye.